Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for Monday, August 24th, 2020. We welcome all those that are watching via streaming of this meeting this evening. We appreciate your attendance in the virtual reality that we live in. This meeting is called to order. I'd like to ask for our City Administrator, Patrick Lawton, to lead us in an invocation. Mr. Lawton?
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pray. Loving and gracious God, give us insight to lead with integrity so that our decisions may reflect what is right and what is good. Keep us from short-sightedness and pettiness. Help us to make decisions that are for the good of all and guard us all from blind self-interest. Dear Lord, grant us the humility to always seek your will in all that we do and say. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Lawton. That brings us to item 3 on the agenda. I will read into the record a statement from the governor. All local governing bodies in the state of Tennessee have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Germantown is no exception. In an effort to carry out its governance and operational responsibilities lawfully and effectively, while also considering the protection of public health, safety, and welfare, the Germantown City Administration has taken steps to conduct Board of Mayor and Aldermen and other public meetings electronically. These actions were taken in response to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order number 51, an order extending Executive Order number 16, previously extended by Executive Order number 34, which suspended the requirements of the Tennessee Open Meetings Act to the extent necessary to allow governing bodies subject to the act to meet and conduct essential business by electronic means. Germantown Board of Mayor and Aldermen has determined that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Further, notice of such electronic meetings has been and will continue to be published in the same manner as is currently used for regular meetings. The public is also, and will continue to be, able to view the agenda and have live access to the actual meetings by electronic means by logging in to the Germantown webpage and by clicking the appropriate link. Video recordings of the meeting will be made available as soon as practical after each meeting on the city's website at www.germantown-tn.gov. These measures are temporary and are due to expire on August 29th, 2020, unless further action is taken by Governor Lee. With that noted, that brings us to item number 4 on the agenda, setting and adopting the agenda. The agenda was sent to the public Wednesday afternoon. At this time, are there any modifications or changes to the agenda? Is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented to the public?
Move to approve.
So motion by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Alderman Owens. Please call the roll.
I have an inquiry, Mayor.
Sure.
Parliamentary.
Alderman Sanders, yes, you are recognized.
Thank you. Mayor, at our July 13th Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting, we had an agenda item titled Shelby County Election Commission Payment. At that meeting, there was a motion made and it was carried by a vote of 4-1 to postpone that agenda item until tonight's meeting. And I don't see that item on our agenda tonight.
Thank you for recognizing that. I believe, and I can defer to the city attorney, I believe, or the city administrator, I believe that particular billing has not been completely settled yet from the law firm. So it'll be presented when that is appropriately, I guess, put together and then brought back either the next meeting or a subsequent meeting. Is that accurate, Mr. Lawton?
That is correct, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your inquiry.
Do we have any idea when that may be?
Have you, or I will ask our city attorney, Attorney McCarroll. I don't see where you, oh, there you are. Do you have anything that you can add to that?
My understanding is it's going to be presented at the next meeting.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a recitation of the entire statute. And it's very clear what it says. but my understanding is it's been set for 2 weeks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your inquiry. It's been motioned and second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes.
Alderman Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Yonda.
Yes.
The agenda has been adopted and set. That brings us to item 5 on the agenda, approval of the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting held on Monday, August the 10th, 2020. The minutes were sent to the public, and when the packet was released, are there any modifications or corrections to the minutes at this time? I'll accept a motion to accept the minutes as presented to the public. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Alderman Sanders. Please call the roll.
Alderman Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Yonda,
Yes.
Alderman Sanders.
Yes.
The minutes have been adopted and approved. That brings us to item 6 on the agenda, citizens to be heard. Citizens to be heard is in an electronic format. Those submittals are collected starting Wednesday and conclude with a noon cutoff on Monday, Board of Mayor and Aldermen Monday. Clerk Betty, do you have a report for the board at this time of citizens to be heard?
Yes, Mayor. There were 151 emails received regarding the proposed Longfield project. 46 are in favor, 13 are opposed. There were an additional 85 in favor, but they did not complete the contact information. And there was an additional 7 opposed, but they also did not provide complete contact information.
Thank you for your very thorough report. And Clerk Betty, those are available on the city's website as we speak. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It's on the calendar page for tonight's meeting. They're included in the board's packet.
Thank you so much. That takes us to item 7 on the agenda this evening, special recognition. Item 7A is a proclamation of the Tennessee, a proclamation saluting Tennessee's Women's Suffrage Centennial Day. That proclamation is in the record and it will be sufficient. We'll not read it into the record. I would like to thank a group of ladies that are very active in local elections and politics for bringing that forward to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So we do join in that celebration of 100 years in the making for women's suffrage, with the state of Tennessee being the final state to make sure that ratification was accepted. And I will not speak on behalf of Alderman Gibson, but I'm sure I see her smiling over this 100-year celebration. So with that said, that brings us to item 7B on the agenda this evening, the Beautification Commission Business Award of the Month. Alderman Sanders, I believe you'll be making that presentation this evening. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. And I believe we may have some pictures of the recipient's business to put on the screen while I read this information. John Marks Enterprises, located at 9076 Poplar Pike, Suite 101, is the recipient of the August Beautification Commission Business Award. The exterior of this store is exquisite, featuring a unique grapevine garland with white lights and large planters filled with beautiful summer color adorning the entrance. Large glass windows with magical themed displays offer shoppers and guests a place to experience the spirit of the current season. Inside the store, it's filled with wreaths, garlands, holiday decor, a wide selection of unique ornaments, outdoor greenery, candles and lighting, ribbons, bows, and many decorative accents from the whimsical to elegant styles. The artistic detail and merchandise presentation, along with this maintenance and care of this Germantown business, demonstrates pride in appearance and commitment to helping the city look beautiful. The Beautification Commission expresses much appreciation to this Germantown business for its beautification efforts and is pleased to present the August Beautification Commission Business Award to John Marks Enterprises.
Thank you, Alderman Sanders, and we are very appreciative of the Beautification Commission's efforts, also with staff to include pictures of the particular business as well, and we thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you, Beautification Commission. That takes us to item 8 on the agenda this evening, the preliminary agenda. We read the preliminary agenda into the record. Preliminary agenda includes item 8A, development contract number 1232, Baptist Memorial Rehabilitation Hospital expansion. Item 8B, donation, Germantown Education Foundation, friend of the foundation, second, third, and fourth quarter donations. Item 8C, public educational governmental disbursement, PEG, disbursement to GMSD for the fourth quarter. And item D, purchase cement, bulk cement treated base mix. Preliminary agenda was included in the packet and presented to the public on Wednesday. Is there a motion to accept the preliminary agenda as submitted to the public? Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion by Alderman Sanders. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Alderman Owens. Please call the roll.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Yonda,
Yes.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes.
Alderman Gibson.
Yes.
Preliminary agenda has been approved, and now we move to the regular agenda. Item 9. Item 9 is Ordinance 2020-1, ordinance to adopt the FY 2021 budget, third and final reading. Mr. Lawton, who will be making your presentation this evening?
Mayor and Board, Director Adrian Worrells will make the presentation at third and final reading.
Director, you have the floor.
Thank you. The purpose of this agenda item is to approve Ordinance 2020-1 on third and final reading for the FY20 proposed budget. The budget for all funds for FY21 totals $157.3 million. General fund operating budget totals $57.6 million. Enterprise funds total $21.5 million. Special revenue funds total $70.7 million. Enterprise internal service funds total $2,093,000, and the capital improvement fund totals $5.3 million. Between the second and third reading of the proposed budget, there were items that were amended. We had those on the last public hearing. It was $875,000 for the CIP fund and $500,000 for State Street Aid. I'd like to turn your attention to the Exhibit A. So the $875,000 is included in Exhibit A, along with the $500,000. I want to turn your attention to the highlighted blue area that is not included, and we're asking this to be added to the final reading. It is the $1.3 million in CARES Act money that you see in the revenue section. There is $708,000 that will be added to the reserves. That is covering expenditures that were made in FY20. And then the $608,000 that will be additional expenditures in FY21 for CARES related money. Mayor, I'm available, and others for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Director Royals, for your presentation this evening. Is there a motion to approve on third and final reading Ordinance 2020-1, establishing the FY21 proposed budget? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Vice Mayor has made a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second on the budget? The second is made by Alderman Gibson. Vice Mayor Yonda, would you like to have the floor at this time, sir?
So I'll pass it this time. I'm still
Thank you.
going through it.
Thank you. Alderman Gibson, would you like the floor at this time?
No, sir, not at this time.
All right, thank you. Floor is open for discussion.
I would like to offer an amendment, Mayor.
Alderman Sanders, you are recognized. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to amend the budget specifically in the area of civic support. I would like to amend that by adding $1,000 in civic support to the senior commission for a spring seminar.
Okay, and if you could just briefly repeat that. I'm writing as you were speaking. If you could repeat that one more time for the sake of the clerk and for me, please.
Yes, sir. To add $1,000 in civic support for the Senior Advisory Commission.
It's been brought forth in the form of an amendment by Alderman Sanders.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
I'm the old guy.
It has been seconded by Alderman Gibson. Alderman Sanders, you have the floor before we even begin. Would you like to give any other or some, I mean, you have the floor. This is your time to be recognized. You can also speak to the amendment when we come to that.
Thank you. The Senior Commission did meet earlier or later, late last week. We normally receive approximately $14,500 in civic support to put on a senior expo. We realized that the budget was tight and we did not receive those funds, but we don't know if we would have been able to have the senior expo anyway due to the current situation with COVID. Unfortunately, when the cuts were made in the budget and this budget was drafted, it might not have, the staff may not have realized that we also put on a spring seminar for our seniors at the Pickering Center, where approximately 100 seniors will attend for receiving educational and information that's pertinent to our seniors in this community. The Commission is hopeful that the COVID situation will be cleared up and that we will have the ability to host that senior spring session or senior, spring seminar. So that's why we're asking for the support of the board to allow this amendment in hopes that COVID will be cleared up and that we'll still be able to have some programming for our seniors.
Thank you. I would just ask City Administration, Administrator Lawton, functionally, can we make this occur?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
That should not be a problem.
Administration has no objection to this amendment unless I hear any. We seek to adopt it as well. Without hearing an objection, it's moved to adopt. Thank you. That takes us back to the original motion. In further discussion, the floor is open. Further discussion on the budget.
I would just like to make some comments.
You were recognized, Alderman Sanders, for your second time. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I do applaud or want to thank the staff for the hard work. I know it was tough looking for the cuts we needed during this time of decreased revenues. I made a motion last meeting to remove one item. I'm happy with this budget. I really only oppose the acquisition of the parkland that's in the budget and the outlying years. The main reason is because the current situation, we don't know what our revenues are going to be. We even postponed adopting this budget because we were so concerned about what level of revenues we would have. So I was just thinking that purchase of the land should not be approved this year and moving forward in that regard until we get a better handle on what future revenues would be. I'm not going to make that motion again today because I don't believe it would be successful. Thank my colleagues for amending this budget and allowing the Senior Commission to have these additional funds. In support of my commission and all the good things in this budget, I intend to vote yes tonight, but I would also qualify my vote by saying there'll be future opportunities for me to address the issue of this parkland acquisition. When the actual purchase comes, there'll be a vote before this board. I'll be able to voice whatever thoughts I have at that time concerning the feel of the community and those that elected us to represent them. So by my voting yes tonight, I'm not agreeing or adopting the position that we should purchase that property. I'm only voting tonight to approve this budget and move forward, knowing and letting the residents know that I'll have an opportunity to voice their concerns and address the actual purchase later in the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sanders. Further discussion? Please call the roll, clerk.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Yonda,
Yes.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes.
Alderman Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Massey.
No.
The motion carries and the budget is adopted for FY21. We move to item 10 on the agenda, Ordinance 2020-3, Real and Personalty Property Taxes. Mr. Lawton, who'll be making your presentation this evening.
Mr. Royals will make this presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Director, you have the floor. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. The purpose of this agenda item is to adopt Ordinance 2020-3 and set the property tax rate of $1.95 for the FY21 budget on third and final reading. The recommended property tax of $1.95 per 100 of assessed value will generate approximately $34.1 million and represent 61% of general fund revenues. Mayor, I'm available for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Director Royals, for the presentation. Is there a motion to adopt Ordinance 2020-3, establishing the certified tax rate of $1.95 on third and final reading? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
There's a motion by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Alderman Gibson. Vice Mayor Yonda, would you like the floor, sir?
I believe I've mentioned several times that we are staying with this and we hope to have additional years at this rate. I believe that, I hope that this pandemic doesn't require us to have to look at other ways of revenues, but at this point, it looks like we've got a great staff input on maintaining our budget and maintaining our tax rate. And I appreciate their work very much too, to ditto my colleagues' comments.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Alderman Gibson, would you like to have the floor, ma'am?
Yes, Mayor, just briefly to echo Vice Mayor Yonda's comments, the work that has been put forth through the Financial Advisory Commission, very conservative in the way that they proceeded with giving us that roadmap, allowing us to go into these outer years when we know expenses are going up in every other industry, as far as at least in the construction world. We know those things are not set expenditures. We know things are going up, and so for us to be able to have no increase in our taxes, I think it speaks to the sound principles that we've shown before this, and want to thank administration as well as our citizens who work so hard on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gibson. Further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Yonda,
Yes.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes.
Alderman Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Massey,
No.
Alderman Owens,
Aye.
The motion carries. Tax rate has been set, established, and maintained at $1.95. We move to item 11 on the agenda, Resolution 20R01, resolution on revenues. Ms. Lawton, who's making this presentation this evening?
Ms. Royals is up one more time.
Oh my gosh, I think she's stealing the show. Director Royals, you have the floor.
Thank you. The purpose of this agenda item is to authorize the various fees, rates, and other revenue structures for the city of Germantown. A comprehensive review of fees and revenues was performed during the city's annual budget process. Market comparisons were performed to make sure the fees and rates were in alignment with the area. The third attachment has an explanation of the changes to these fees. Mayor, we're available for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Director Royals. I'll just point out from every department, not many changes this year. Again, the index at the end explains the changes, but very few this time around, and I'm sure all the users would be appreciative of that. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 20R01, the resolution on revenues and schedules establishing the rates, fines, and fees and the various funds of the city of Germantown for the FY21 operating budget? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
There's a motion
Second.
by the Vice Mayor, and there's a second by Alderman Owens. Vice Mayor, would you like the floor, sir? Vice Mayor?
Sorry, I'm just reading about the utility fund increases, which I realize we've had some change in vendors, but no, I think this is some great work again by our staff, and I'll pass for right now.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Alderman Owens, would you like to be recognized, sir?
Sure. I want to be germane, and I neglected to thank our staff at the reading of the budget. So just allow me, if you will, to say thank you to staff and the members of the Financial Advisory Commission for all their work in preparing this and getting this budget to us. I echo my colleagues' sentiments and comments before me.
Thank you, Alderman Owens. Further discussion? Floor is open. Alderman Sanders, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. I just have a question, Mayor.
Sure.
I noticed under the farm park rentals, we are reducing those rental fees apparently, and just curious the thought process behind it, since we continue to have to infuse money there at the farm park. So that's
Sure,
actually
I'd
decreasing.
be glad to get that started. Director Royals or Director Beasley, Parks and Rec, either one would like to chime in on that question.
Yes, sir. Alderman Sanders, on a regular basis, any of our rental facilities, we like to do a market comparison with like venues. And when we first opened the farm park, there weren't any other type of, I'm going to use the term barn and farm like settings available for parties and weddings. That's not the case anymore. Over time, there have been several that have cropped up in the metro area and in the broader Tri-County area. So we did a market study, and we're just trying to put our fees in line with the services that we offer there. And so we feel like that it's a good move, and our whole goal is to increase the volume of rentals.
Thank you, Director Beasley. Alderman Sanders, you still have the floor, sir.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Alderman. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Sanders?
Yes.
Alderman Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Massey?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Yonda?
Yes.
The motion carries. Fees have been set for FY21. We move to item 12 on the agenda, Resolution 20R09, Capital Improvements Program. Mr. Lawton, who'll be making the presentation this evening.
Yes, Mayor. Emily Roser is with us. She's our capital improvements manager, and Emily will make this presentation.
Ms. Roser, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. As outlined in the capital improvements policy adopted by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in 2005, the city will update and adopt annually a 6-year CIP. Included in the 6-year CIP is the annual capital improvements budget, which this board adopted in the FY20 budget earlier this evening. Also included is a 5-year projection of capital needs and expenditures from FY22 through 26. The CIP is broken down into various categories, including general government, major roads, intersections and other, drainage, parks, the Germantown Athletic Club, municipal schools, and utilities. On the last page of this agenda item, we provide you with the funding summary of the CIP that shows where the dollars are coming from which of the categories just mentioned, and how the projects will be financed during the 6-year period. In brief, the CIP 5-year projection, which is FY22 through 26, anticipates approximately $34 million from reserves, $10 million in grants and state and federal funding, $6 million in general bonds, and just over $2 million in utility bonds. The CIP outer years have a primary focus on parks, with the purchase of the parkland, the Longfield development, and the reinvestment in neighborhood parks and legacy parks. Second to parks is a focus on drainage improvements. Improvements are anticipated to be made in the areas of Duntreath Ditch, Redbud Trail, Cedarwood Drive, Mimosa Road, and Golden Fields, as well as several other areas. The BMA is adopting this by resolution because, as previously mentioned, the CIP is updated annually. It is expected that during the year, priorities may change and new projects may present themselves. And so we have the flexibility when we come back to you during the next budget process to amend the CIP and we'll bring it to you in the form of a resolution. Department heads are available to answer questions, and budget and finance staff are also available to answer questions regarding the funding.
Thank you for your presentation this evening, Ms. Roser. And I would compliment you on an incredibly interactive and also very informational dashboard that you've established this year. I think it's state of the art and very becoming of our city. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 20R09, establishing a capital improvements program for fiscal years ending June 30th, 2021 through 2026? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
There's a motion by the Vice Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Alderman Owens. Vice Mayor Yonda, would you like to have the floor, sir?
Yes, I just want to clarify.
You're recognized. Go ahead.
Thank you. I want to clarify something. You have the parkland acquisition in FY22. Is that correct?
Ms. Roser, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Just want to make sure. I was getting concerned that we were being pushed on the due diligence, et cetera, to speed that up. There are many things in this, and it's never enough when it comes to CIP. Some of the things that are major concern to people is drainage, of course. Infrastructure, we have many things that are very old, or the last time they were worked on in 1966. But that will mean that we need to increase our taxes to cover the bonds that would be necessary to do everything everybody wants. There's never going to be a situation on anything that we do that somebody's interest has not been attended to, excuse me. I think this is very, very conservative. It fits within a budget process. It's also going to fit into future budgets, but there are some things that are going to be $20 million projects that's going to have to be done over a 20-year program. Just think of the drainage. If we did all the drainage that we hear about, we'd have to come up with $8 million a year for the next 10 years. But it's important. The parks are important. We obviously have seen this with the massive number of emails that I've not seen since we had an issue with guns in the parks. This is a great CIP. We're going to get things done. It is a plan. Not everything is going to be in there that our citizens want, or some of the citizens anyway, but there is a great plan. And I appreciate all the work that everybody's put into this. And we're getting there. I just wish we had more paving. I'm sorry. The FAC just pushes paving like crazy. And I think it's important that we do keep our roads in great shape. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Alderman Owens, would you like to have the floor at this time, sir?
Not at this time, Mayor, not at this time.
Thank you. The floor is open for discussion.
I'd just like to make some
Alderman
comments.
Sanders, you're recognized. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I'm not going to offer any amendments to this capital improvements plan or this budget item or agenda item, I'm sorry. But I'm also not going to be able to support it tonight. There's several things in here, and I can't go over all of them in the limited time that I have, but I would like to see increased funding on the Houston Middle School expansion to give back the original amount that we agreed to give them last year, the $5 million, and we don't have that in here. The presentation indicated that the number one expenditure over these next few years is parks. I'm not opposed to parks. Since I've been alderman, I've voted for and we've approved over $3 million in projects that further the park plan and improve our parks. So I am for our parks, but I believe we just finished several years of in a very large project at the Grove. It's my opinion we should spend several years now working on our infrastructure and core services that the city is supposed to provide. Schools, education, public safety, infrastructure, drainage, roads, paving, things like that. So for that reason, and also we only discussed in our work session for the capital improvements plan the current year's CIP. We didn't go into the outlying years so much. There's even things here on funding sources of some of these programs that I think we might look at. For instance, the water tower, maybe that could be paid for out of our reserves, the millions we have sitting there that it's not earmarked for anything at the time, and not the money is not allocated towards certain projects, rather than seeking a bond and increasing the cost over a good number of years. So for that reason, I'm not going to be able to support this resolution tonight.
Thank you, Alderman Sanders. Further discussion? Alderman Gibson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would simply just like to address the comments of a colleague talking about the moving forward and being supportive of parks. Our body in 2018 adopted the Park Master Plan. That was vetted through the Park Commission. And in that plan, we have parkland acquisition as being a priority. Just as stormwater, the Stormwater Master Plan that will be completed in this year. I know in talking with Public Works Director Bo Mills, that is that roadmap. Forgive the Public Works humor, poor humor, about of which we're going to be able to move forward with our stormwater improvements in a deliberate and intentional way. For the parkland, this acquisition, what it does for our master plan, for those future generations of children that are going to get to play in our parks, it is pivotal as far as what happens with that next step. Until this can be accomplished, there can be no expansion of soccer or lacrosse or rugby. All of those things we heard from in those emails that we received. 151 folks that were willing to put down pen to paper through email to express what their feelings are. The vast majority of those were in favor of improving and the need for a long field complex. And so when we talk about the CIP, I think that, and really the entire budget, it is about balance. That is what I think that it's one of our greatest strengths, is the ability to balance all of those needs. We support our first responders who keep us safe. We support roads being repaired and paved, managing an aging infrastructure, doing so strategically. And we collectively, we're going to all need to make certain that we are finding those resources to make sure that we do the work that's going to be necessary for that stormwater master plan, just as we are with the parks master plan. It doesn't happen immediately. It happens over time. That is what a master plan is. We support the arts and parks and libraries, and we're going to continue to invest in high quality public education, schools, safety, parks, roads, the arts, stormwater. One's not mutually exclusive of the other. And we can have it all. We just have to balance all of the things that make us proud to call Germantown home. And I think that even to simplify it as we can agree to disagree, I'm not even sure that is the right way to say it. I think that we want to move forward with the things that we have made a priority. And in Germantown, we are blessed in that there's so many things that are priorities for us, and they're all good. And I want to thank Emily again and staff for bringing this forward, and for each of the department heads that gave of their time to sit down with those of us who would go over not just this year's CIP, but what those outer years look like. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Alderman Gibson. Further discussion?
Sure,
Please
Mayor.
call the roll. Yeah.
Mayor,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, Alderman Massey, you are recognized, sir.
Sure. I agree with the sentiments of Alderman Sanders. I don't think I'm going to be able
Please
to
refrain from using names. Go ahead, sir.
Sure. So, like Alderman Sanders, I don't think I'm going to be able to support
Please refrain
this
from
tonight.
using names, sir. Go ahead, continue with the floor.
You know, to say that we have a lot of priorities in the budget, I think begs the question of whose priorities we have in the capital improvements plan. In my opinion, I just think that the majority of Germantown residents wouldn't prioritize the acquisition of the long fields above some of our drainage and other infrastructure issues that I think need to be prioritized above things like the long field development. I mean, when I talk to people and they find out that where these long fields, where the purchase is planned at this point, they realize that it's really not near the majority of our residential neighborhoods. They're less inclined to think that it's a good idea, even those who are supportive of the project. But I think the vast majority of Germantown residents see it as unwise at this time. A lot of residents see it as wasteful, quite frankly. We did just raise taxes not too long ago. So while we're not raising the taxes again this year, they were just recently raised. And so with the uncertainty in the economy right now, I just feel like that it is prudent for us to put off some of these projects that shouldn't necessarily come from before things like our schools and our drainage and some of the other projects that Alderman Sanders mentioned. I mean, certainly, it's hard to vote against the CIP because these are all in here, but it will get the support of the majority. But I think that there are residents out there that appreciate somebody expressing some objections to some of these projects that they feel like may be a little bit wasteful. So I appreciate you giving me some time and listen to what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Massey. Further discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, Alderman Owens, you have the floor, sir.
Thanks. I would just like to address a couple of things. I appreciate my female colleagues, I'm not going to use any names, comments about balance here. And I think not to just echo everything she said, but what we are trying to do is find a balance between our utilities, between our roads, between our education and public schools, between our arts and our parks. And with regards to, we know that this small expenditure in this year's budget will really give the city it's giving the city the option to explore all our options and determine if that site meets all the criteria to make this project work. And I think really it's necessary to do so. It's important that we do our due diligence on a project of such a significance that looked so favorably by so many people when we went through the parks master planning process, and is evidenced by the 100 plus emails that we received from our residents. Both Germantown sports leadership and parents in both the recreation as well as the competitive leagues support this project. They're the ones who help develop this vision, and they'll be the ones at the table when it's time to develop the design plans as well as the management plans. But I want to talk about the location. I know we're talking about CIP here, but the location, we're not making any new land in Germantown. And yes, it is, on the Winchester corridor there. But unfortunately, there are no locations that have this amount of land in the center of our city where we can have lighted fields that don't back up to residences. I mean, this is where we have to put the fields primarily, unless we want to disrupt the residential homes and communities that we've built and tried to protect. So I've got a number of other comments, but I guess that's it for now. I just think that the balance is important. And I think as we move forward with this Longfield project, it is the linchpin or the domino that we've talked about that is necessary to put in place so all of our other users can begin to expand and use the parks like we have been promoting since the 70s and earlier for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Owens. Further discussion on the CIP, long-term CIP.
Yes, Mayor.
Alderman Sanders, you're recognized, sir. You have the floor.
Speaking to the balance that my colleague mentioned and brought up, just looking at the summary, for instance, we're over these coming years we're spending $15 million in the parks, $14 million on intersections, other, and drainage. Major roads, only $9 million. General government is minuscule, but look at our schools, 3,600,000 compared to the 15 million to the parks. I think to reach a balance, I think we need to consider those very important items that the services that the city provides its residents, that we receive the tax dollars for. So that's what I'm looking at. If we could obtain a better balance in there, I wouldn't oppose it. If we put the earnest money down on that property, I'm not sure that we have to buy it the very next year. I don't know what kind of contract or agreement you would have with the owners, but there's plenty of things that we could spend money to advance our master parks plan. We could make our restrooms in all our current parks ADA compliant and upgrade those. We could add some pavilions to Cameron Brown. This body voted to add 60 parking places at Cameron Brown, and that was never done for whatever reason. I don't know why that didn't happen when I believe it was a unanimous vote amongst this board. But for whatever reason, the addition there was not done. We're expanding our greenways, which is a big project going now that is in support of the master parks plan. So just to postpone a purchase of that piece of property doesn't squash the master parks plan. There are plenty of places we could spend smaller amounts of money and achieve a great benefit for our residents in their local parks, just to improve what we have now that also further that plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sanders. Further discussion on this item?
I have some comments, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, you are recognized, sir.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to point out that unfortunately, our bonding has been unbalanced in the school area. If y'all remember the information we received, I believe last month from Jason Heisman, we've spent over $60 million for the schools, and it's time to start investing in other areas. The school has $24 million in reserve. I realize some of it's spoken for. If they need an additional few $1 million, they can take it out of their reserves for right now. But it's time for us to spend money in the city area. Schools are extremely important. I have citizens comment they don't care anything about the schools. They don't have any children going to them. I have people that have nothing to do with our parks. People that, just have nothing to do with Germantown Athletic Club. Why are we spending that money? You're always going to have people who do not agree with what we're spending our money on. But we are not shortchanging the schools by any means, especially with that yearly payment. But we have, yes, the parks, in my opinion, in the 8 years that I've been here, we have shortchanged them. We would, if we just spent 60 some odd million in the last 5 years on the parks master plan, we would have that almost done. But we have definitely shortchanged in the last 8 years that I've been here, the parks. We have also shortchanged some of our public works. I understand that. And that's the areas that we're probably going to be concentrating on. But again, it's a matter of what your priority might be, or my priority might be, or the citizens. It's obviously based on the number of emails, which I can assure you were massive compared to other projects that we've had a few emails from here and there, but you're always going to have people say they don't want something, or they do want something. But the people I've talked to, and of course I realize I go to my grandson's soccer games and stuff like that, they want an improvement in our parks programs. They want an improvement in our fields. The rugby people, the lacrosse people, they want that. And it's a large number of people, I can assure you, because it's filled up quite a bit at these different locations. And yes, you know what, I'm glad my colleague brought up the parking spaces. I don't know if that has been put on hold somewhere, or I missed that. We definitely need that because of the size of the parking issue we have at those parks. But the park master plan makes it better for all the different baseball, the football, the soccer, everything. It's an extremely detailed plan. And yes, there's minor things that we can do in there. And we need to be doing them. But we haven't been spending any money towards the master plan, in my opinion. It's just that we're trying to maintain these parks, and the parks is a large department. We are, spending a lot of time in our public safety, a lot of money, time too, upgrading. I think we pretty well got the public safety up to snuff, except for a couple of areas, but maybe we can start throwing some more money into the major roads or into our utilities in that area. But right now, this is a good program based on what we feel we have money coming in. Of course, our bonding is reduced each year from the payments, et cetera, that we make. But we have a low amount of bonding available to us, in my opinion. But this, I don't know that we've shortchanged anybody. I just think parks never seems to get what we need to make them better. And now it's a few $1 million more than drainage. Drainage is definitely an important part, and we've got plans to do it over the years. So we got to stay within, or we've got to raise our taxes. So if you start adding to wanting everything done, we've got to raise taxes, and I know nobody wants that. I do have a question. When was the year, and I realize I should remember this, what year did we raise those taxes? Was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Mr. Lawton, was that in 2018 or 2017?
Yes, sir, I believe. Yes, Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong.
Director Royals?
Sorry, I was finding mute. It was 2018.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I didn't miss that it was this year or last year. Okay. I'm through, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Further discussion?
Mayor,
Please.
just one
Yes.
other comment. I think
Yes.
I've just got
Alderman
one more
Gibson,
time.
you have the floor.
I wanted to thank my colleagues, actually, each of you, for sharing the concerns that I don't think are unique to just one of us. I think that we all, in talking with our Public Works Director, we all feel the weight of what we know is coming with what we'll be doing in stormwater. We know that when we talk with Reynold Douglas and facilities, that we know that there is work to be done. Each of our department heads, they have needs. When we talk with Chief Selberg, Chief Hall, we know what those are. And so I think that if there is something that is a positive that I take away from our time together tonight, is that we are I think that we are single-minded in our pursuit to make certain that the needs of these departments are met, and that we have a budget that is lean, that we are not being frivolous. We are being good stewards with the people's money. That is what our role is on this board, to set policy, to create this budget. It's the most difficult thing that we do because the needs are so many, and we have to sometimes take a step back to make strides forward. And so I would like to thank each of you for your comments tonight.
Thank you, Alderman Gibson. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Massey?
No.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Yonda?
Yes.
Oh,
Alderman Sanders?
Quick.
No.
Clerk, did that conclude the roll call? I was taking some notes.
Yes, sir, it did.
Thank you. The motion carries and is approved. The long-term CIP is adopted. We've reached the conclusion of the FY21 budget season. I would like to again spend a moment thanking all staff collectively, from the city administrator through the department heads, the entire 420 plus employees, and the entire team. Between now and sometime this week, there was a question about parking lot renovations at Cameron Brown. We'll get you an answer to that. Just keep in mind, board, there were $20 million approximately of projects that were put on pause for FY20 and 21, or perhaps that may have been a project that went over budget, but we'll check on that with you. We appreciate the discussion this evening. It was very thoughtful, a lot of concern by all 5 aldermen. We appreciate the support, whether the vote was affirmative or not so. And we promise that we will, I heard this common theme tonight, we will balance things up, and we will make sure that we continue to provide premium services for our customers, our residents, as we move forward. I know it was pointed out some things in the long-term CIP that are worth noting. You know, parks is right at $15,072,000 through FY26. Intersections, other, and drainage is $14,435,000. So they're very close. Just last week, we received confirmation on our block grant that will be going to some drainage projects. All these things, including parkland acquisition, a emphasis on funding our park master plan, continuing the balance with infrastructure and drainage, public safety. To steal from a former president, you know, we do all these things not because they're easy. We do them because they're hard, and we will accomplish all those things in delivering balance to our residents. We will make all those things as far as premium services made available, and we'll always continue to do so. One of the aldermen brought up this evening, which I thought was very important. A vote on the budget is approving a document that is the guideline for city and the city administration. Each and every item has to be appropriated, vetted, and then funded later. So there are multiple proverbial bites at the apple. So we look forward to working with you for the balance of FY21. Thank you, board members, for all of your input during this budget season. We are adjourned. Have a good evening and a good rest of the week, Germantown.